Hello everybody, this is Amanda Davis from Cubbyhole Crafts, and I'm now doing the tutorial for the flower card, which you made the flower last week and hopefully been practicing. So bring your flower onto the page and we'll start. We take our cursor key to the rectangle box and we're going to draw a rectangle on the page. Like so. This can be whatever size that you want to fit your mat. Obviously I'm using a robo, so I'm stuck to the smaller mat. There's the rectangle. Now what we're going to do is duplicate this panel like that, and then we're going to stretch this one to fit the rectangle. There we go. And now we're going to make sure it overlaps just a tiny little bit and draw a box around both items. Right click and weld. And there we go, we've got the first back panel. Now we're also going to use this back panel to make the fronts of the card. So we need to duplicate this one 2 times. So they're here, and we're going to put this one aside and bring one panel onto the board. And we're going to repeat what we did for the flower initially and draw a rectangle around to the middle like so. Let's move that out of the way, and then draw a box around them both. Go to the modify tool and hit subtract, and that gives us our first panel. And we're going to repeat with the second panel, but in the other on the other side. So to your rectangle tool, draw your rectangle round to the middle like that, and again a box all the way around and hit subtract, and that gives us our 2 doors and our back panel like this. Now we need to join these together when they're cut out, so we're going to take the rectangle tool and draw a thin rectangle like so. Now you can have it the exact length, but in preference I like a little gap, and then I know exactly where to put my fold. Now I'm going to duplicate this box, so we've got one for either side, and just overlap them very slightly. And do the doors separately, so draw a box around these 2, right click and weld and repeat, right click and weld, and that gives us our 2 panels for the front of the card and the back panel. Now for the lacy part down the front of the card, you can either repeat the first steps of making the back panel and join this directly on down here, like so, but I actually prefer to have it separate. So I draw a rectangle weld them together, and I can now make this the size that I want to fit. But I'll cut this separate, and when I've cut all the pieces, this will join on the inside of the card and sit like that, because this is the part that we fold back on itself, and it also adds a little strength to the edge of the card. So we want 2 pieces of this, one for either side, and we want it to match, so we keep this highlighted and we mirror right. So that gives us 2 identical pieces like that. Also, if we put these out the way, when you're making cards or scrapbooking, what you can also do with these, because it's all now a border, is you can then stretch it all the way down your page and cut them out as borders. So you duplicate all the way down, either widthways or lengthways, and this gives you a nice borders put on your cards. So that's those ready for cutting. Now we're going to make some panels for these. So what we're going to do is draw another rectangle inside, so we can get an idea where it's going to sit on the card. Obviously you don't want it to go past here, because this is going to be a fold. When you're happy with the spacing, like that, we're going to take this to the side and we're going to work on this now. So we're going to do a square inside here, so put your shift key down and it'll give you a perfect square, and enlarge to suit. Let go of your shift key, and while it's highlighted, go to your offset key and do an internal offset, and put this roughly around 120 and hit apply. And we're going to draw a box around these and make a compound path so they move together. Now the big flower that we've still got left, we're going to bring down to this box, and I'm going to enlarge it to fit inside the square like this, similar to when we did the word in a box tutorial. When you're happy with the spacing, draw a box around the square in the flower, right click and weld. Now you can keep this as a separate panel, which you can use as a topper, but because we want it to cut inside the rectangle, I'm going to draw a box around, and I'm going to ask it to align centre, roughly where it is there. I like that spacing. Now I'm going to release compound path and take away this outer remember, if you make a mistake, the undo button's your best friend. Take away this outer box. So like the tutorial with the word in a box, it will cut out here, here and inside the petals, and you'll be left with a square aperture flower. So what we want to do now is draw a box around everything, group, right click and make a compound path, and we need 2 of these. So again, highlight, hit your duplicate and mirror left, then they're identical, and we can cut these out off the panel like this. If you do that and you just want this part cutting out, then you would release compound path and move this box here. But I like these as separate panels, so I would cut them separately. So this is all the outside of the box ready. So I'm going to move these out of the way, and we're going to make the inside of the panel. So I'm just going to zoom out so I can see a little bit better, and I want to make sure I get a nice size for the rectangle as I'm going to use. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here inside the back panel, draw a box around so you would roughly know where it would be, and a line centre. That way it stays within this part of the rectangle and doesn't go over your nice flower piece. But for now I'm going to take that here, highlight it, hit the offset key and do an internal offset. Now I want quite a nice outer piece, so I can glue this down. So about 345 and hit apply. Group them together and make a compound path. So they're joined together as one piece. Now we're going to take the single flower and I'm going to make it replicate. So duplicate right and duplicate right. So for the bottom piece I'm going to have 3 flowers. Now we want a spare one, and pull that aside. Now we're going to weld these together. Probably zoom in so you can see a bit better. Draw a box around, right click and weld. And I want these on the inside of the rectangle, so I'm going to enlarge and just overlap it a little bit by stretching it. And I want a matching piece for the top, so while that's highlighted I'm going to mirror above and then take that up here, make sure it's slightly overlapped like this. Now I'm going to make the side a little bit bigger, so I'm going to duplicate and weld. So draw a box around, right click and weld. I'm going to rotate this to go up the centre and stretch it out and make it a little bit bigger. Size is up to you. It gives a nice shape in the middle. So that's ready for welding. Now I want another piece for here, so I'm going to mirror left and take that across like this. Now I'm going to draw a box all the way around like so, right click and weld, and that gives us a lovely panel. Again, you can cut it out separately as it is, as a nice lacy panel on the inside of the card, or again, if you'd prefer, zoom out, you would centre it onto your align tool, align centre, and then you would release compound path on this line here, and you would move that piece. And then you would draw a box around, regroup make a compound path. And now this would cut out here inside each of the petals, and here, and this outside edge. So this would be a totally cut out panel, and that is preference to you. Now I'm going to have mine so it's here. I'll line that up. So that will cut as a totally separate piece, so obviously I need to rejoin those. Like so, to give me a separate piece. Again. But also, instead of doing it internally, you can put the flower petals on the outside edge and make it smaller, and then have the inside so it's solid, following exactly the same principles, and then having these parts on the outside as you've got on the two little borders just here. So that's all the pieces that you need for your card. I'll zoom out so you can roughly see what you would need. So your back panel, your front panels, your lace panels for the doors, your outer panel, which you can cut separately or as one piece by removing these lines, and your inside panel. And there we have it. Hope you have fun making this card up, and don't forget, all these sort of cards are made simply with a couple of shapes. It's a matter of playing around with the shapes and seeing what you can develop. Have lots of fun. Don't forget to post your designs onto Cubbyhole Crafts so I can have a look. Have lots of fun. Bye now. Like both items, and they're both highlighted. And now we're going to go to the modify tool up here, and we're going to press the subtract button like that, and that now gives us